very first one was that truth never changes. And we took a look at Proverbs chapter 12, verse 19. Once again, truth gains strength under pressure. Let's go to Job chapter 14, verse 14. And in looking at this statement, this is Job's speech, which illustrates to us a great truth, and that is to have a right set of doctrines is not enough, and I'm going to get into that. Knowing the right thing is not enough. Listen to what Job says. If a man dies, shall he live again? All the days of my hard service, I will wait till my change comes. Now, I need you to let what Job says sink in. If a man dies, shall he live again? All the days, and listen to this, of my hard service, I will wait till my change comes. You cannot wait on change if you are not familiar with truth. The more the truth of God is rooted and grounded in you, the better you can handle whatever Satan brings your way. Am I making sense to you? Okay? Waiting on a change is not easy. Do y'all hear what I'm saying now? Because so often I think we're living in an age where people think once I pray, God's going to move. That's not always true. There are times you can pray and pray and pray and pray, and it looks like God is just not going to do anything, but he is. What is happening sometimes is we have to develop an attitude that no matter what comes my way, I am determined to wait. That means I got to wait under whatever condition I got to wait under. So to know what to believe is not all there is required of us to please God. Let me say that again. Knowing what to believe is not all that is required to please God. Listen to this statement. Truth untested by life's experiences may become static or stagnant. Listen what I'm saying. You may know a biblical truth. You may know it by heart. Can quote it with your Bible closed, word for word. Got me? But the Lord also knows that you only have it in your memory bank, not in your life, not in your daily walk. So what he allows sometimes to happen is for things to come in our midst so that you can take that truth and put it into action in your daily walk. So you got to snatch it out of your memory and use it. Because everything you got stored up here isn't activated in your daily walk. Everybody with me? That's the idea. That's what happens. Now here's the problem. Job is a good example on suffering. And suffering can bring down a dynamic quality of life if you handle it right. Okay? You know as well as I know, when you go through something, you are far better when you go through than you were before you started. Now, the line to do all of this, getting in line, ain't nobody in line. Because don't nobody want to get in a line to be willing to suffer. But when you go through, and I need you to understand, I'm saying when you go through. Suffering is so unique. Suffering can drive us beyond a superficial acceptance of truth. It'll bring you to a level of dependence on the truth. Am I making sense to you? You know it up here, but can you put it in your daily walk? He says, I'll supply your every need. You know that. What do you have to do to get that principle in your life? You got to get it out of your head. Some folk ain't got it in their head. But when you got it up here and it doesn't show up in your daily walk, Paul says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Nothing wrong with that statement. But if I can quote it and not live it or make sure it is implemented in my daily walk, I got a problem. Okay? So truth gains strength under pressure, which means now you see why we have to go through what we have to go through sometimes. Okay? Because he looks at us and sees, you quoted that thing, man. You did that. You quoted that thing. That was off the chain. But you have no idea of what it takes to practice it in your daily walk. You got me? So knowing what to do is one thing. Doing what needs to be done is something totally different. Okay? So you have to recognize that truth has a unique way of gaining strength under pressure. Now, I'm not trying to teach you on what you need to do, but then again I am. So I'll take that back. Let me help you out. Coming to church on a Sunday and you hear a certain scripture and you can't shake it off. That scripture rests on your heart. It wouldn't hurt throughout the week. Read that thing over and over, over and over, over and over. And in the process of reading, steal away and pray and say, now God, I read that thing. Help me to walk that thing. Boy, does everybody understand what I'm saying? Because you have to walk it out. Up here won't help you. What'd you say, bro, Gaines? Do something with it. And that's where the problem comes. That's how we end up with truth not gaining strength under pressure. We crumble under pressure versus the word. So that tells you now, if you know something to be right, Satan's job is to come after you and snatch what you know is right. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Is it all right if I share? Okay. I mean, you really don't have a problem? Okay. I went over and Sister Smith said something to me. And I jumped into her. I zeroed in on her because she made one little simple statement and she says, I felt like God was doing what? punishing you. And I said, hold up. Ain't no need of us praying, because we got a problem. We got to get rid of that thinking. And I talked to her to get her to understand that couldn't possibly be true. Because if what he did on the cross, according to the word, is sufficient, then why is God holding a grudge against something that he's already told you he's cleared up your past? So you couldn't have both. But that's what the enemy does. See, the enemy has to come at us in our thinking. Because if you got the biblical truth up here, if he can snatch it out, then you got nothing to stand on. So he was after snatching what he knew was already up there. He was twisting it. See, that ain't the way God operates. Whatever we did 40 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever we did yesterday, already been dealt with. Already been taken care of. Okay? But the enemy comes up and says, the only reason this happened is because of this. No, that's not true. So you got to know sometimes who you are in Christ. I belong to him, been bought with a price, blood covered. He's mine and I'm his. And you got to stand on that. And sometimes you have to shut your eyes to what's happening around you, because self wants to see, and self can't see what God is doing. Just make yourself available for him. He doesn't have to step in and use you. You already got him. See, he's already in. And that Satan is a sneaky, conniving, cutthroat, that rascal. And he waits till you get alone and plays with this up here. And he will plant a negative thought or die. And if you have to be careful that you don't water it, because it'll grow. You know, and you don't have to struggle on what he tells you, because you'll see it. He'll say, you know, you did such and such, back such and such, at such and such a time, and you can just see it. Isn't it funny? When he brings up something we did in the past, we could just see it. But when God says, I got everything under control, we can't see that. Okay, so, but that was what that was about. Does everybody? And that's a good example. Very good example. And it happened to any of us. Any of us. Even under pressure. Because you have to be so careful sometimes. But it's important that we speak about things according to what Scripture declares. You got to speak to those things that be not as though they were. So it's going to sound crazy what I'm saying, but you got to keep saying, but God. God's going to do this, and God's going to do that, and God's going to provide. Don't try to speak about the details of things. Just say, God's going to give me strength. God's going to give me guidance. God's going to show me what he wants me to do. But don't try to get into God's going to do this and this and this and this. That's not important. Knowing that God's going to do something is far more important than seeking the details. Am I making sense? And that's all. Okay? Whew. Thank you, ma'am. Next one. Truth is not nullified by compromise or wrongdoing. Let's go to Mark chapter 15, verse 15. So Pilate, wanting to gratify the crowd, released Barnabas to them, and he delivered Jesus after he had what? Scourged him to be what? Crucified. And here's a point I need y'all to see. Although Jesus was innocent when it comes to looking at it from the standpoint of the Roman law. Pilate caved in to all of this under the political pressure. But I need you to understand, it's the same as you trying to track down a lie. Don't chase the lie, stand firm on the truth. Because tracking down the lie will not benefit you. That meant then that Pilate abandoned what he knew was right. He abandoned that. Okay? And we got to be careful. See, it's a dangerous thing to know what's right and don't do it. Okay? That means you deliberately took a move and you chose to do the wrong thing. So trying to second guess the Jewish leaders or even Pilate, they gave a decision to please everyone. Crucify Jesus. Do you understand? And see, that's what Christians do sometimes. Okay? You got to know that you know, and you know it well and stand on it. Okay? Am I making sense to you? Don't get to a point that you try to twist it to fit what folk want. Listen to this statement. God promises to honor those who do right, not those who make everyone happy. Let me say that again. God promises to honor those who do right, not those who make everyone happy. There's a difference. Okay? And sometimes standing alone is painful. Okay? You don't become popular by standing on the truth. It hurts. You can gain a following when you lie. Okay, you gain a quick following. People will stand there and talk to you for hours when you lie. Okay? But it takes a lot. So now if that be the case, and Jesus never bends, he never gives in, come on, y'all. Sometimes we have to stand firm the same way. Okay? And it hurts. Okay? Truth has to be rooted and grounded somewhere. It can't be something that we sat down in a chair in the bedroom and thought of, or we walking down the hall and we get an idea. So the next concept, I need you to make sure you write it the way I got it written on the screen. And that is, truth matches the teachings of Jesus Christ. Truth matches the teachings of Jesus Christ. Let's go to Luke chapter 9, verse 35. Listen to what the word says. And a voice came out of the cloud saying, "This is my beloved Son. Hear him." So as God's Son, Jesus has God's power. Jesus has God's authority. Therefore, his words should be the final authority. Now, right here is where the problem comes. Are you ready? If the truth should match Jesus' teachings, and we are not familiar with his teachings, then we don't know the truth. See, this is why, as Christians, trying to get our people to have a hunger for the word. See, Satan will have a hard time snatching from you what's rooted in you. Now, he might throw off your seasons, but he's not going to uproot a blessing out of you. When you know something, you got to stand on that thing. You got to stay before God, and you got to make sure that you believe what you have read. If he said it, stand on it. But here's what we do. If the scripture says that he says, love your enemies, we try to find a loophole and come out and say, well, now he didn't really mean it like that. This is how, that's no. He meant it just the way it says. So it changed what you're praying about. See, sometimes you get to a point, you don't pray for the removal of your enemy. You pray that whatever reason they are in your presence, God's going to get out of you his word. Woo. Am I making sense to you? If a person's teachings is true, it will agree with Jesus' teachings. So that's why I stay on us, because I want to make sure y'all ain't sitting at everybody's table. Then come back talking about, I was over so-and-so, and let me tell you, now this is what, no. You can't get up and handle this by glancing at it. You got to read this stuff. You got to stay in this. You got to pull a word apart. One word can change the whole statement. And you know, I stay on us because you ain't got no business going somewhere and you all up, run up down the aisle, and it's a drive-through sermon. That means you getting a little something in the bag and gonna scoot around the building and head on out. Now come on now. Come on. Because you ought to have sense enough to know it's got to be deeper than he's able. All right, you already know he's able. God will make a way. You know that. How can you line your life up to reap what he said? That's a whole different ball game. Everything gonna be all right. God is a good God. You knew that before you even stepped in the door of the church. You knew that. What you have to do now is be taught, how do I line up with his goodness? How can God's goodness be seen in my life? What can I reap out of this relationship with God? He's a joy. God will bring you joy. Okay, fine. Teach me, how can I get joy when I'm catching hell? Now, that's the whole different ball game. But just to tell you, he's got joy. Unspeakable. That's fine. But you need to experience, I'm in the wrong lane. Sometimes in preaching, we have to be just that blunt. You on the right highway in the wrong lane. Then some folk on the highway going the wrong direction. And some folk park. They ain't on no road. And do y'all understand? Okay. Whew. The key, listen to this. The key is to test everything you hear against Jesus' words, and you will not be led astray. You got to do, the key is to test, and I mean you got to test everything you hear against God. If the preacher said it, open your Bible. And our people just hoop and holler and scream and all. We had good church today. They ain't got no Bible. Preacher just up there just going from Genesis to Revelation, and you ain't checked nothing. Come on now. That's ridiculous. And that will upset me. If I'm looking at you and I'm going, now first of all, I'm saying, now, I don't care about these other folk up in here, but where is your Bible? Because I've taught y'all different. You jot it down. And it doesn't mean you going in every worship service with the attitude you in there to critique. No, that's not what you're doing. But you read the menu before you order. I would hope you would. Listen to this statement. Christians should not seek advice and guidance from the world or merely human resources and neglect the Word of God. More Christians ask other folk what you think. I'm not trying to be funny. What do you want their advice for? What you think I ought to do about her? What you think I ought to do about him? What do you mean? Come on, y'all. And then we go to some of the sorriest resources. What in the world is one woman going to ask another woman and she ain't got a man? And I'm not trying to be funny. I don't understand that. At least, if you're going to go to somebody else, let it be equal on what you got, they got. Okay? You're going to ask a woman who had 5 men, what you think I ought to do with this one? You already know the answer. Does everybody understand what we're saying? But we got to know what Jesus' teachings are all about. Okay? And that's exactly why I've stood up here and informed us that the Lord said New Horizon must be a teaching church. And I got sense enough to know that it is not going to be an easy task. The more I get up and talk about it, the crazier our people act. But when trouble strikes, they still knock on the door. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? Still knock on the door. Okay? Next one. Truth sets us free. Okay? Truth sets us free. Let's go to John chapter 8, verses 30, 31, and 32 for right now. As he spoke these words, many believed in him. Then Jesus said to those Jews who believed in him, "If you abide in my word, you are my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." First thing that we have to establish is that Jesus himself is the truth. But I read something that I need to play with. So Sister Paul, if you don't mind, back up to verse 30. He said, as he spoke these words, many believed in him. Watch the next verse. Then Jesus said to those Jews who believed in him. Now here's look at what comes into play after hearing that caused them to believe. They got a responsibility. Listen to what Jesus says. If you abide in my what? Word, you are my what? Disciple indeed. There has to be some abiding in God's word. It's got to be. That's the only way we can make it. That's why I can't understand how folk can go months and I got to get some word. I got to have some word. Okay? And there are moments I just need to get enough word to get me through a situation, through the week, through a problem. And have you ever just turned the television on and boom, the very thing you needed was what was being read. Has that ever happened to you? The very scripture, and it's like boom, God spoke. Or have you ever been in the house by yourself and you turn your radio on, had your music on, and the very song that you needed was playing? It hit the spot. And I'm talking about hitting it enough that you just kind of got ugly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's go to John chapter 8, verse 36. Same chapter, just slide down a few verses. Listen what he says. Therefore, if the Son makes you free, you shall be what? Free indeed. The first thing we need to establish is that he is the source of truth. He is the perfect standard for what is right. He's the source. And he got everything you need. I mean, absolutely everything that you need. Now, let me talk for a moment as to why Satan is so busy in the church. Okay? If he can get a believer to literally think he or she is bound, he got you. And that's his purpose. So that's why you have to be careful what you say. You got me? If you pray and you get up off your knees, you got to speak that thing into existence. Why would you pray and still talk negative? Something wrong with your praying now. Come on. You got to get up with the attitude, God got this thing. And God has promised me when, how, and what he gonna do ain't none of my business. But it is my business to know that God gonna do it. I hope I'm making some sense. But it's impossible to be set free and bound at the same time. You either bound or you set free. And problems, mess, burdens, situation, circumstances all come after us to cause us to become bound. That's what that rascal does. And you have to sometimes step above that thing and say, God has not yet delivered me out of this situation, but I'm here to tell you I got his strength while I'm in it. So whatever comes at me can't hurt me because I got his presence with me. Yeah, sometimes you have to change how you view that thing. There are moments God takes you out of things. Then there are times you can pray and God leaves you. Have you ever felt like God just didn't hear you? You prayed and he just didn't hear you. But then out of nowhere, he gives you strength. Then you start saying to yourself, only reason I could have made it. So what truth does, truth causes us to focus on the idea that Jesus is the way to eternal life. And you got to get your eyes off of where you are. You can't. Because if you're trying to live successfully based on where you are, you're in trouble. There are moments you have to look out the window of your circumstance of hell and see that some way down the road, God gonna make a way. How many of y'all been praying over something that God ain't done nothing about it in months? Okay. I need you to hear this statement. Jesus does not give us freedom to do what we want, but to follow God. See, that's where the problem comes in. We get too much freedom and we start operating in the flesh based on what we want to do. But your objective is to follow God. Never pray and ask God just to take you out of a circumstance. If you're going to pray right, say, God, show me what you're trying to teach me. Show me what I am to learn in this thing, so that when you get ready to deliver me, I can go to the next level. Okay? Because ain't no sense in you being set free on the level you on, and you don't know no more than what you knew when you on that level. Next one. Truth challenges us to submit to its demands. You got me? Now, this is where people go running. This is the only reason why I don't come to Bible study. I will come to life application. But you know, I figured the less I know, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. That's just like saying, I'm not going to sit at the table, you know, because I know once they put the food on the table, you know. No. If the food is prepared, you have the obligation to sit at the table. Let's go to John chapter 14, verse 6. Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. The word is not designed for us to argue over and to always seek loopholes. But if you know the truth has a unique way of challenging us to submit to its demands. So that means that there are times when you know something God has already told you, and your attitude has to be, whatever happens, I'm just going to stand. I might be crying while I'm standing, but I'm going to stand. I might have to stand by myself, but I'm going to stand. Because the truth will never lead you somewhere that God doesn't have the power to keep you if you get there. You know, I don't know, you know, everybody else is doing it. And this ain't about everybody else. This is about what you know God has promised you. And this is why so often I tell you, watch what other folk feed into your spirit. You got to watch that now. Why are you talking to somebody who is full of negativity? And as much as you trying to talk right and speak that thing into existence, this person keeps saying to you, well, I tried that and it didn't work. And I'm just here, now you just getting to be too holy now. You just carrying that thing. You need to tell sometimes certain Negro, just shut up. Just get out of my business. I'm not trying to be funny, because you got to stand on what God promised. So now you can see how worry wears us down. To the point some people can't get up Sunday and come to worship because they've been worried about something for about 3 or 4 months and they just can't fix it. And the best time to come worship God is when that rascal is messing with your mind. Even to the point when things don't work out with how you're going to get here. Call somebody. Put your pride in your pocketbook. You got to get to where that word is being presented. Last one. Truth is found in the person of Jesus. I just shared it with you in John 14 and 6. As the way, Jesus is our path to the Father. He made it very clear. You don't get to him unless you come through me. At the same time, Jesus being the truth, he is the reality to the promises of God. Am I making sense? So sometimes when things ain't right, I'm going to make a recommendation. Steal away. Get off by yourself and think yourself clear. And I mean, you just got to get real practical with God. You have to say stuff like, I know I ain't been right today because I've been bouncing in and out with my mind. I think one moment you're going to make a way. Another time I think it ain't going to work out. You got to sit down somewhere and let that word rest in your spirit. And then when you rise up, take authority. This is the day that the Lord has made. I have decided I'm going to rejoice. That whatever's in this day, I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it. That's an attitude change. That's something you got to do personally. And whatever it takes, do it, y'all. I don't know how y'all do it. I can only tell you what I have to have. See, I have to have a little bit of music. Now, I don't want it loud. I just need it soft. Okay? Because I can't operate with a whole lot of noise. I have to have a little. It don't have to be just completely quiet, but I need a little something. Okay? And my folks already know me. If I'm getting in the car, I have to have my music. I have to. It keeps this working. Keeps me thinking the way I need to think. Now, when it gets empty, I'm in trouble. Okay? There are moments I have to hear another preacher preach. I got to get the word. I hope I'm making sense. I got to get a word. I got to hear another preacher say so. Other day, sitting in the office, I said, Brother Shelley, Jake's talking to me. Now, whether he was talking to you or anybody else, I didn't care. He was talking to me. It was almost like the word was personal. You ever been like that? It almost felt like Jake's jumped in my spirit and read me and then jumped back out and said, now let me tell you something, Negro. That's just the way I felt because he hit bullseye. Now, if another preacher can hit bullseye to another preacher, then you being sheep. There you go. And now at that moment, Doc, you just need for the Lord to hit bullseye. Okay. All right. We managed to clear it all up. I want to thank y'all. Put this in your notes. Next thing we're going to do is the second principle. Whatever things are noble, and depending upon your translation, when we do it next week, it might read honest. Okay? And don't lose sight of where it's located in the text either. It comes after what? Truth. Things that are what? True. Nullified. That one? Yeah. Truth is not nullified by compromise or wrongdoing. You know, in other words, truth will stand by itself. It doesn't change under any circumstance, and you don't have to do anything. Just know you know it.